And we thank Allah who in His kindness has allowed us to teach this subject. It is not an easy subject, but by Allah's kindness and grace and guidance, we are able to present to you in this session two main actors in the stage of the world in the end time. The first is an individual, and the second, a people. The Arabs did not know how to deal with this phenomenon of someone who was born in their midst and who grew up so truthful and trustworthy that they even gave him the name Al-Amin, the truthful one, the trustworthy one. And yet, when he was fully 40 years of age, and a grown-up man, nothing crooked in him, at this age he should stun them in declaring that he is a prophet of the one God, like unto Abraham and Moses and Jesus alayhim as-salam. They didn't know how to deal with this. So they said, let us send a delegation to the northern city of Yathrib, now known as Medina, because there are large numbers of Jews over there, and they have had numerous prophets. So maybe they can help us. How can we determine whether or not he is indeed a prophet? You will find this analysis in my book entitled Surat al-Kahf and the Modern Age. So the delegation went to the northern city of Yathrib and met with the rabbis. And they said, ask him these three questions which only a prophet can answer. And if he answers them correctly, then he is indeed a true prophet. The answers, of course, are with them, the rabbis, so only they can confirm that the answers are correct. Question number one, ask him about the great traveler who traveled to the two ends of the land. Strange question. Only a prophet knows it. Ask him, number two, about the young man and the cave. Strange question. Only a prophet knows. Question number three, ask him about the ruh, the spirit. So the Arabs, the delegation came back to Mecca, and the leaders of the Quraysh came to Nabi Muhammad ﷺ with the three questions. And Allah sent down the answers in the Quran. But two of the answers are in one surah of the Quran, Surat al-Kahf, and the third answer is in another surah, the one that came before Surat al-Kahf, which is Surat al-Isra, which also has a second name called Surat Bani Israel. Indeed, what is being conveyed to us is that there is a dynamic link between these two surahs. Surah Bani Israel and Surah al-Kahf. If you want to understand Surah al-Kahf, you're going to have to use Surah Bani Israel in particular to understand Surah al-Kahf. When Allah sent down the answers, He did it in a special way. And that is that He first repeated the question and then He gave the answer. For example, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. And they questioned thee about the ruh, O Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Qul ruhu min amri rabbi. And then Allah answers the question. And then وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنْ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ. And they question thee, O Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, about the great traveler who is known as Dhul Qarnayn. And then Allah proceeds to answer the question. But wait a minute. Insofar as question 3 is concerned, he does not repeat the question, indicating that there is something special about this one which he wants to remain concealed. There's a cover over it. This is why he does not repeat the question. You have to study the Quran with great care. Nothing happens by accident in the Quran. So when we deal with question 3, we know we got to look underneath to find what is it. The question concerning the ruh is very important because the Messiah is also known as a ruh. And the Jews believe that the Messiah who is to come is a ruh. So that's why they ask about the ruh, connected with the Messiah. But in answering the question, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala simply said, قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. Say to them, the ruh is from my Lord. Bas, fakat, that's it. So he does not disclose anything more. No. وَمَا أُوتِيتُ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. And I have not given you knowledge except a little bit. So they're still waiting. They want to know about the ruh and the Messiah. And he does not give it to them. When the Prophet ﷺ delivered this message from Allah, this is the answer. The answer reached them in Yathrib. It reached them. So when the Hijrah took place and the Prophet ﷺ is now in Medina, they came to him and they asked him, the Jews, they said, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Allah said that I have not given you knowledge except just a little bit, was he referring to us or was he referring to the Arabs? Because they believe they are the elite of mankind, the intellectual elite, the chosen of the Lord God. And I referred to Surah Al-Jum'ah, you remember? In za'amtum annakum awliya'u lillahi min dunin nas. If you believe that you are the chosen people of the Lord God, to the exclusion of the rest of mankind, فَتَمَنَّوُا الْمَوْتَ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Come on, why don't you desire death? So there is a reference to the chosen people in the Quran, and Allah has rejected it. So the Prophet replied to them and said, Allah was referring to both of you, to the Jews as well as to the pagan Arabs. If you want knowledge, you have to come to this Nabi and to this book. And so we are a people blessed by Allah with knowledge that they don't have. What are we doing with it? I'll tell you. We eat our biryani and go to sleep. That's what we're doing. Allah has given to us knowledge that no one else has. And we're just sitting with it and fighting with each other over peanuts and eating biryani and going to sleep. That is the pathetic state of this ummah. So they were stunned by that answer. So what is the relationship between the Messiah and the Ruh? When it came to question number 2, the great traveler who traveled to the two ends of the land, and he is known by this nickname of Dhul Qarnayn, the one who possesses 2 qarn. A qarn is a horn, so Qarnayn, 2 horns, or a qarn can be a generation, a people, an age, an epoch. Which one is it? The Quran has never used the word qarn to mean a horn. Never. Every time the Quran has used the word qarn, it's the other meaning. Every time. Never, never, never to mean horn. So proper methodology is to be consistent. So when the Quran uses the term Zul Qarnayn, consistency requires that we must accept it to refer to someone who impacts on 2 ages, on 2 people. And he's someone who has faith, yes, and he's someone who's endowed with power. Allah gave him power. And he can pursue whatever objective he chooses to pursue. And how does he use his power? When power rests on the foundations of faith, how is it used? When power rests on the foundations of faith, how is power used? He travels in the direction of the setting of the sun. And he reaches a body of water. And it is dark and murky, meaning visibility is very shallow. And there he comes across a people, and Allah says, how would you treat with them? How would you deal with them? And his response is, those who are guilty of oppression and wickedness and injustice, I'll punish them. So power is used to punish the oppressor. And when they return to you, you will also punish them. So when power rests on the foundations of faith, there's harmony between this world and that. And those who are righteous in conduct and have faith, I will treat them nicely and reward them. So when power rests on the foundations of faith, power assists those who live the religious way of life. What will be the opposite of that? Watch it. Watch it. Then he travels in the opposite direction to the rising of the sun. If on this side he's blocked by a body of water, and if he is traveling to the two ends of the land, you don't need a PhD to understand that there'll be a body of water on that side also. Otherwise, he'll keep on traveling all around the earth. So we're looking for a geographical location where there's a body of water to the west and a body of water to the east. And there he comes across a people, and Allah is very, very, very economical in his use of language. لَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُمْ مِن دُونِهَا سِتْرًا. Very economical in the use of language. Very few words. Maybe a people living a primitive way of life, and Allah knows best. So how are you going to deal with them? Zulqarnain has the wisdom and the compassion and the sense of respect for human rights to allow them to continue to live undisturbed. So it is the characteristic of power when it rests on the foundations of faith, that it respects human rights, even of a people who live the primitive way of life. What could be the opposite of that? And then he travels in a third direction, and we know that it has to be north. And there he comes across a range of mountains, and there's a pass between the mountains. So our geographical inquiry now is for a body of water to the left, a body of water to the right, and a mountain range between them. An impassable mountain range with a pass in between. One pass. And we know the shape of the pass. The shape of the pass is like Sadafain. The two sides of a shell, that's the shape, the two sides of a shell. There he comes across a people. These are a unique people who speak a unique language, not connected with the regional languages. So the geography increases now by which we can recognize where we are. It has to be a body of water on this side, a body of water on this side, a mountain range in between that is impassable, and between it there is a pass, one pass, only one, and the people who are resident there speak a unique language, unconnected with the regional languages. And these people then say to him, Inna Ya'juj wa Ma'juj mufsiduna fil ard. That Gog and Magog are committing fasad in our territory. Fasad is not just corruption, to corrupt something. You know, like corrupting money. Fasad is more than that. It is that which corrupts and in the process destroys. And so Allah reserves the worst punishment of all for fasad fil ard. Cut off the hands and cut off the legs from opposite sides and crucify them. Fasad. And these are agents of fasad, Gog and Magog. If they are agents of fasad, and fasad is sinful conduct, unjust conduct, can they be angels? No, because angels don't commit sin. Angels don't oppress. Well then, if they're not angels, can they be jinn? That's a possibility, yes. The jinn can be unjust. Or they can be human beings. Unless you did your PhD in Disneyland or in Hollywood. It's either angels or jinn or human beings, nothing else. Nothing else that Allah created as beings. Angels and jinn and human beings. So you are cornered now with your schoolboy methodology. Gog and Magog have to be either jinn or human beings. Can they be jinn? They ask him, we're prepared to help you, to pay you. Can you build a barrier to contain them? And he builds a barrier made of iron and steel. Can you contain the jinn with a barrier built with iron and steel? The jinn will pass through the barrier. So they can't be jinn. So they have to be human beings. When Allah sent human beings from heaven to live on earth, Did he send them to live in the interior of the earth? Huh? وَلَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُسْتَقَرٌّ وَمَتَاعٌ إِلَى حِينٍ. You're going to live on earth, and earth will be your place of abode and sustenance. And sustenance. Can human beings live in the interior of the earth and be provided with sustenance? Where did that rubbish come from? From which garbage bin did that rubbish come from? When will they learn proper methodology? These schoolboys corrupting people's thinking. And when you try to teach them, it goes through one ear and it comes out of the other. So leave them, leave them, leave them, and let's move forward. I have had enough of their nonsense, and I'm fed up of them. Gog and Magog have to be not only human beings, because they're committing fasad. And angels cannot commit fasad. And the jinn cannot be contained by a barrier. So Gog and Magog have to be human. This is elementary logic, not sophisticated logic. But also Gog and Magog will have to be resident on the surface of the earth. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُسْتَقَرٌّ وَمَتَاعٌ إِلَى حِينٍ. Because Allah sent us to live on the surface of the earth, which can sustain us. But the schoolboy cannot understand that, so he's still insisting they're living like ants down in the interior of the earth. So leave the schoolboy with his nonsense. So he builds the barrier, and they are contained. And then he says, هذا رحمة من ربي فإذا جاء وعد ربي جعله دكا وكان وعد ربي حقا. I have built this, and this is a rahmah from my Rabb, an act of kindness. But when that time comes of which my Lord has warned, Allah is going to bring down the barrier and they'll be released. وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّ حَقًّا. And then the promise of my Lord, or rather the warning of my Lord, will come to pass. And so in the first of the two ages and the people, the world is safe from Gog and Magog. But in the second of the Qarnayn, they will be released. And the world will have to face Gog and Magog. This is the Qarnayn, two Qarns. In the first one, power rested on the foundations of faith. But in the second one, power is used to oppress. They are agents of fasad. So these cannot be a people of faith. So power rests now on foundations which are godless. And power is used in the second of the two Qarns to oppress. But Allah speaks in a Hadith al-Qudsi, in Sahih Muslim, I have created creatures of mine, meaning Gog and Magog, so powerful that none but I can destroy them. So when they are let loose, when Allah brings down the barrier, you cannot stand up to them. No. Not even Dhul Qarnayn. Only Allah can destroy them. But what you can do is to use a language of a game called chess. You can checkmate them. And that's what Dhul Qarnayn did when he bit the barrier. They were checkmated. He checkmated them the first time, and he'll checkmate them the second time as well, after they have been released. And so now we know that what the Jews, the rabbis were questioning him about was whether he knew about Gog and Magog. That's what they wanted to know. But that's the third journey, whereas they ask only about the first and the second. You see the strategy? Only a prophet would know about the third journey. And only a prophet would know about Gog and Magog. So when they get their answer, now they're stunned with the answer. Then Allah spoke secondly in the Quran about Gog and Magog. He says, وَحَرَامٌ عَلَى قَرْيَةٍ أَهْلَكْنَاهَا أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ أَبَدًا. A town which was destroyed, and the people of the town were expelled, and then a ban was placed on them that they could never return to reclaim this town as their own. Abada, ever, kabinai. Hatta إذا فتحت يأجوج ومأجوج وهم من كل حدب ينسلون. Until Gog and Magog are released. Notice the language. Notice the language. Futihat. Futihat. Released. He didn't say ba'atha. Ba'atha is to send. This is futihat, to release. When Gog and Magog are released, وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ حَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ. And then with their indestructible power, they spread out all over the world. And they take control of the world in what is the world order of Gog and Magog. When that happens, then you see these people being brought back to this town to reclaim it as their own. If the schoolboy wants to say it is Chicago, well, that's up to him. We know that it is Jerusalem. And that the Quran is saying that when Jerusalem was destroyed and the Jews were expelled, and then a ban was placed on them for 2,000 years, they could never return. When you see them returning to the Holy Land after 2,000 years, then that is the mother of all signs that those who are bringing them back to the Holy Land are Gog and Magog. And so Gog and Magog are connected with Dajjal, of course, because in order for Dajjal to fulfill his mission of impersonation of the true Messiah, and the true Messiah has to bring back the Khilafah state, the holy state, in Jerusalem. And it must become the ruling state in the world. And he, the Messiah, will rule over that ruling state in the world. And may I pause to remind you once again, and I think I'm going to have to keep on reminding you until I die. I will have to keep on reminding you until I die. And even so, there will still be those who will not understand. The brainwashing is so profound and so intense that Allah sent the Messiah to Banu Israel. You don't believe me? Check it out. Go and look in the Quran. Find it there. Twice in the Quran he says it, that he sent the Messiah to Banu Israel. And if there is any change in that, only Allah can change it. You cannot. Only Allah can change it. And if there is any change in that, it must be in the ayat muhkamat of the Quran, not in the mutashabihat. But there is no such thing in the ayat muhkamat of the Quran. None. And so the conclusion is that when Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns, He's coming back to them, Banu Israel. And those who follow him from that ummah, they are the ones who are going to be raised. وَجَاعِلُ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوكَ وَجَاعِلُ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوكَ فَوْقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. Surah Ali Imran. That Allah is going to raise them who follow Jesus alayhi salam when He returns. He will raise them to a position of dominance over those who are committing kufr against Him, which is that world of Gog and Magog out there, which controls power in the world today. And so that ruling state in the world, over which He will rule, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, will not be people who follow Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Someone has to do some rethinking and remove the brainwashing. We will have our Khilafah state. And I quoted to you from Surah An-Nur, وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ إِلَى آخِرِ الْآيَةِ. So yes, and we will have Imam al-Mahdi. And it will be there in Mecca. And these two will cooperate and collaborate with each other. If he is to impersonate the true Messiah, then that false Messiah will also have to rule the world from Jerusalem. So he'll have to liberate the Holy Land, which is under Muslim rule for 1,000 years. And he'll have to bring the Jews back to the Holy Land. They've been dispersed. Who will bring them back? Allah says it's going to be Gog and Magog. So Gog and Magog are working with Dajjal in bringing the Jews back to the Holy Land. But they first have to liberate the Holy Land. The same people who liberate the Holy Land for the Jews are the same people who will bring the Jews back to the Holy Land. And it's the same people who will revive a state of Israel in the Holy Land for Dajjal. And that Israel, that holy Israel, has to become the ruling state in the world. So the Gog and Magog are acting on behalf of Dajjal. And only when that state of Israel becomes the ruling state in the world, only then can Dajjal declare, I am the Messiah. And rub his hands and say, crick, crack, the wire bend, and that's the way the story ends. Mission accomplished. So there you are. The link between Gog and Magog and Dajjal. You cannot study these two subjects in isolation. You got to be able to connect the dots. You got to be able to see the link between the two. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, that when Dajjal is released, he will live on earth for 40 days. Yawmun kasana, a day which will be like a year. Yawmun kashahr, a day which will be like a month. Yawmun kajum'a, a day which will be like a week. وَسَائِرُ أَيَّامِهِ كَأَيَّامِكُمْ, and all his days, meaning all the rest of his days, like your days. In other words, Dajjal is going to have a mission comprised of 3 stages. 3 stages. Before he enters into our world of space and time, when his day is like our day. Prior to this, you can't see him. He is here, but you can't see him. So what? The jinn are here, can you see them? The angels are here right on your shoulders, can you see them? No. So Dajjal is here, but you can't see him until the 3 stages are over, and then he enters into our world of space and time when he's born of a human being, I mentioned this in the last session. The Quran now explains to us that there's also an additional way of recognizing these three stages. In Surah Al-Mursalat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks and He says, Intaliku, proceed. Go on, let the historical process now unfold. Ila zillin, to a shadow. This is a shadow. In order for there to be a shadow, there must be something to create a shadow. This is a shadow of that. Ila zillin zi salasi shu'ab. A shadow is going to come upon the world. And that shadow will emerge in three stages, will have three parts. And our interpretation, and of course, you know, when you interpret, you must say Allah knows best. Because only Allah, only He can confirm that an interpretation of mutashabihat is correct. Only Allah. So we make an interpretation, we have the right to do so. Allah sent the Quran, لِقَوْمِ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. He didn't send the Quran to people who eat biryani and go home and sleep. He sent the Quran to people who think. And we say that the three stages of the shadow are the three parts of the mission of Dajjal. That the first part of the shadow will be quite long, and the second part will be shorter, and the third part will be quite short. And only after these three parts of the shadow have been completed will the shadow disappear and the man come himself in person, Al-Masih al-Dajjal. It looks very much as though he's already been released. Nabi Muhammad ﷺ had a companion whose name was Tamim al-Dari. He was a Christian from Palestine, from Ardul Muqaddasa. He took the Shahada and became Muslim. And he came to the Prophet ﷺ and narrated something which we must understand to have been a vision, not an actual event. And then the Prophet said, this confirms what I've been saying to you. And then he narrated the event. That Tamim al-Dari and some 40 of his companions went on a ship, and a storm blew them until eventually, after 1 month's travel, they reached an island. And when they got off the ship, they were confronted by a very hairy creature or beast. It says, I am Jassasa, spying. Wala tajassasu, Jassasa, spying. So an island with expertise in espionage and spying. James Bond kind of stuff. Sounds familiar? Jassasa has so much hair that you can't tell which side is head and which side is tail. Like in Lower Manhattan, sometimes you can't tell who is a man and who is a woman. So, an island which conceals its true identity. An island which conceals its true identity. And an island with PhD in deception and espionage. Oh yes, PhD in deception and espionage. And Jassasa said, there's someone waiting to see you, pointing to a monastery which is lying in ruins, meaning this is an island in which religion is going to collapse. And the churches and synagogues are going to be sold to McDonald's, hamburgers, and Kentucky Fried. And you go into a masjid to perform salat, and you, oh, no, this used to be a church. We bought it from them. This used to be a synagogue. We bought it from them. Huh? Otherwise it'd be a, what is it called? Pizza Hut. Ah, yes. It used to be a church, and now it's Pizza Hut. This is what this island is going to be like. And there's someone waiting to see you. So we rushed to the monastery lying in ruins. And there we met him, Dajjal. He was powerfully built, yeah? And, but he had his hands chained to his neck, and he had his feet chained together. And we have a physical description about him. And if he was one-eyed, then we had to be blind not to see it. If this was a man with only one eye, his left eye, and his right eye was blind and looked like a bulging grape, you know, we had to be blind not to see it. But we were not blind. And we were giving a description about him. And there's nothing in that description about a man with one eye. Mind you, be careful. And then Dajjal asked them a number of questions. And then finally he said, I am Dajjal. And when I'm released, I'm going to enter every town and every city, including London, of course. But I'll not be allowed to enter Mecca and Medina. So which island is this? When he's released in a day which is like a year, it is from this island, in the first stage of the shadow, that he has to commence his mission to eventually rule the world from Jerusalem. If you want to tell me it is Taiwan, well, fine, that's your choice. He says Singapore, fine, that's your choice. We're not going to argue with you. Okay? But we say it is the island of Britain. And they say, oh, what a fool is this Sheikh Imran Hosein. He never studied geography at school. They didn't teach geography in Trinidad in the Caribbean. He doesn't know. The Prophet said that Dajjal will come from the east, 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 and Britain is to the west. Poor Imran Hosein, he doesn't know geography. So leave them. We come back to that nonsense. When Dajjal is released, he's not going to be in our world of space and time. There is no east and no west in other worlds. East and west belong only to this material universe. But the schoolboy doesn't know that. So the only time east and west will apply to Dajjal is when he emerges in our world of space and time. But the schoolboy doesn't know that. It is at that time that he'll come from the east, when he emerges in our world of space and time. But the schoolboy doesn't know that. Before that, he's not in our world of space and time. We say Britain fits the description. How else can we explain that the prince of modern Western civilization, this is Britain, the prince of modern Western civilization. Modern Western civilization came as a secular society, secular civilization, with a secular political philosophy, with a secular model of a state. And Britain is par excellence the secular model of a state. So why should a secular model of a state be obsessed with a holy land and the holy state of Israel? It doesn't fit the bill. Huh? The only way we can explain Britain's obsession with the Holy Land, that they should wage jihad to liberate the Holy Land. And eventually it is a British commander, British general, a man named Allenby, who leads a British army with Arabs fighting faithfully with him and Punjabis fighting faithfully with him, who defeat the Ottoman army, and in 1917 enters Jerusalem to liberate it. And when Allenby entered Jerusalem, guess what this prince of the secular world said? He said, today the Crusades have ended. Confirming that Britain was part and parcel of a holy war, a secular state and a holy war. This is the deception. The Balfour Declaration came from Britain, that Her Majesty's government will now work for the establishment of a Jewish state, a Jewish homeland in the Holy Land. How can you explain that? There's no explanation other than they're doing this on behalf of Dajjal. And then when they conquered Jerusalem, the Holy Land then entered into British possession. Britain now ruled over the Holy Land in what is known as a mandate. Mandated by who? By God? Mandated by whom? The Holy Land. And Britain rules over the Holy Land until 1948. Yeah? And then how is power transferred? Whenever Britain had to decolonize, the British were meticulously punctual in ensuring a legal transfer of power. You must have constitutions in place. You must have an entirely foolproof transfer of power from the colonial power to the new regime. And then you have the flag and the national anthem and all these things. Every time they did it, except this one. For this, there was no transfer of power. No. They left like a thief in the dark. We say the island is Britain. And we say that the first stage of the shadow gave to the world Pax Britannica and gave to the world the sterling pound as the universal currency, bogus and fraudulent money used to rip off mankind. And then we say the second stage of the shadow was Pax Americana. And now the US dollar replaces the sterling pound. And the United States displays the same obsession with the Holy Land and with Israel up to this moment. Up to this moment. And we say that the United States is acting on behalf of Dajjal, that this is the second stage. And we say that we are now in that moment of time when stage 2 of the shadow is about to be replaced by stage 3. Intelico ila zillin zi salasi shu'ab. Intelico ila zillin zi salasi shu'ab. And the Pax Americana is about to be replaced by a Pax Judaica, so that Israel can rule the world. So we say that Dajjal has already completed most of his mission. He had to first liberate the Holy Land. He did that with Gog and Magog, 1917. He had to bring the Jews back to the Holy Land. He did that with Gog and Magog, between 1917 and 1948. He had to restore a state of Israel in the Holy Land and get them to believe that this is Holy Israel. He's done that. He did it in 1948. And he has to cause that Israel to become the ruling state in the world. And that's why you have cryptocurrency now. Oh yes. That's why you have cryptocurrencies and bitcoins. But if you study the subject in isolation, you won't be able to understand. If you understand the subject as a whole, then you realize that bitcoins and cryptocurrencies are there to facilitate the process of dismantling this monetary system, which is under the control of governments, to replace it eventually with one currency for all of mankind under the control of Israel. So we say that Dajjal is already released, and when a day like a week has ended, then Dajjal will be able to then proclaim himself to be the Messiah. But this is our next session that's coming, a timeline of events with which history will end. I have done a lot in 1 hour. I can't believe it. I have introduced you to the two major actors of the end time. I have introduced you to Al-Masih al-Dajjal, and I have introduced you to Gog and Magog. And now there remains only one thing more. I can take 5 minutes and we can end. What is this business about the Jasad? What is the implication? Because he has to be born as a human being. And our Prophet described him that he'll be a Jew. He'll be a young man. He'll be powerfully built. He'll have the curls that the Orthodox Jews have. So how can he be a Jasad? In what way is he not a full human being? Or if I were to let the cat out of the bag, how can we recognize this automaton? The answer is located in the analysis of what constitutes the self, or sometimes called the ego. That a human being is endowed by Allah with an amana. Inna aradna al-amanata ala samawati wal-ard wal-jibal. An amana, a trust. And when that amana was given to the human being, it elevated him to such a high status that Allah said to the angels, Isjudu li Adam. Make sajda before Adam. This is not sajda of ibadah. No. In the first page of the book of history, sajda is an act of respect, not of worship. And that sajda is a part of truth. A sajda where you bow down and prostrate yourself before a human being is an act of respect which is located in the first page of the book of history. Go check it out. It is only in this, the last chapter of the book of history, and only us, we are the only ones who are prohibited now from bowing down and prostrating. No, we can prostrate only before Allah. For us, this will be worship. We cannot worship other than Allah. Only this ummah. But the Hindu wife, to this day, has preserved a part of the truth, which is located on the first page of the book of history. And I have to tell the Hindu that because he doesn't know it. I have to tell him that you have preserved in Hinduism something which is located on the first page of the book of history, namely sajda, as an act of respect. That's what the Hindu wife does when she touches the foot of her husband. She's not worshipping him. So what is it that Allah gave to the human being? That the angels were asked to make sajda out of respect, not worship. What was this amana? Inna aradna al-amanata ala samawati wal-ard wal-jibal. Answer, Allah gave to the human being what He did not give to the angels. Now, what is it? He gave to the human beings consciousness of self. The animals don't have that, the trees don't have that. But yes, an angel can say, I am Gabriel, I am Jibreel. So an angel does have consciousness of self. And the jinn, yes, ana khayru minhu, I am better than him. The jinn can say I. They also have consciousness of self, and so do the human beings. But the angels don't have a free will. They don't have a self-directed will. No. وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. Whatever Allah orders, they have to act on it. Yes, the jinn do have, and so do the human beings. But there's something more. Allah has given to the human being what is known as a creative intellect, a capacity to pursue knowledge independently, not just book knowledge, a capacity to extend the frontiers of knowledge, a capacity for insight, internal, intuitive, spiritual insight, a capacity for basira, and ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tarah, but you should worship Allah as though you're seeing Him with your internal sight. We are the only ones with that. If Iblis had that, Iblis would have recognized that I ought to bow down in respect for him. Iblis didn't have that. So Iblis felt, I am better than him. He lacked the capacity to recognize what Allah had given to Adam alayhi salam. He didn't have the intellectual capacity. He didn't have the spiritual insight. And so he said, no, I'm not going to do it. أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُ خَلَقْتَنِي مِنْ نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ طِينٍ. All he could see in a human being is the clay. He couldn't see anything more than that. So this is what Allah gave to the human being. And I want to share with you in ending now. This is my insight. You don't have to agree with me. In fact, I would be very pleased if you do not agree with me, and you do your own homework, and you think the way I had to think. That will please me very much. You climb the mountain. You tell me what it is to be a jasad. I say he's a jasad because he may have the capacity to say, yes, I am the Messiah. Ana al-Masih. That's what the Prophet said. He will say, Ana al-Masih. I am the Messiah. So he has self-consciousness. But I don't think he has a self-directed will. Because if you have a self-directed will, you can choose and you can make mistakes. But he is programmed not to make mistakes. Everything he does is programmed. Dajjal. So I say he's a jasad because he lacks a self-directed will or a free will. Secondly, I say he's a jasad because, like the angels, he does not have a creative intellect. He does not have to think to get knowledge. Because when you think to get knowledge, you make mistakes, like I have made mistakes. Not him. He doesn't make mistakes because he's not engaged in independent thinking. He does not possess a creative intellect. This is my understanding. So you may call it artificial intelligence. You can call it an automaton. But you know that in the world at the end time, the world is going to become filled with Dajjals. People who lack the capacity to think for themselves, and Hollywood chooses for them and thinks for them. And the cell phones thinks for them, and television thinks for them. They lack the capacity for a creative thought. They cannot think. The art of thinking is gone. So they're shallow people. A world filled with shallow people. And number two, they lack the capacity to choose for themselves, like Dajjal. And Hollywood will choose for them. And the children, most of all, will be like Dajjal. And the Pied Piper of Hamelin, he plays the tune, and they'll all dance to his tune, and he'll take them into the fire. With this, we'll end our session for today. We took for exactly 1 hour, and we have a little question and answer session now. He is going to appear as a Jew, Dajjal, but he's not Jewish. No. Dajjal is someone created by Allah. And when Tamim ad-Dari met him and questioned him, he told Tamim ad-Dari, you better follow this man, the prophet who has come in Arabia. Follow him if you want to be. If you are correct, you must follow him. The Jew wouldn't say that. The Jew would not say follow Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, would he? Would he? But Dajjal said, follow Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So yes, he would be recognized as a Jew, and he's sent to test the Jews, but he's not himself actually a Jew. He's a special creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, there is a hadith that Dajjal will be followed by 70,000 Jews from Isfahan wearing their Persian shawls. I went to Isfahan. It's a beautiful city. They say of Isfahan that it is Nisfu Jahan. Do we have anyone from Iran here? Nobody from Iran? Nisfu Jahan. Meaning half of the world is here in Isfahan. So beautiful is the city. But when I went to Isfahan, I found something remarkably mysterious. That the city was inundated with European tourists. Inundated. No other city in Iran except Isfahan. And they all stay in one part of the hotel, one part of the city in one hotel. The hotel is teeming, full, packed with European tourists. And they're not from Russia. They're not from the Orthodox Christian world. They're from this side, the Western world. And so the link between Dajjal and Isfahan, don't think that he's talking about Iranian nationals who are supporters of the Islamic revolution in Iran, that these are the people of Dajjal. No. It is more likely that the Jews who have fled Iran, and other Jews who were never born in Iran, are targeting Iran. This is Dajjal's attack. And they're using Isfahan as a cover, tourism cover, for the effort to try to penetrate Iran. Next question. Yeah. Okay, there are two things here.
It's a bit confused.
The two things here. He will come from the east, he'll come from the east, he'll come from the east. And Britain is in the west. This is not Gog and Magog, this is Dajjal. The hadith is that he'll come from the east. Remember? And I said east and west belong to this material universe. You don't have east and west in the samawat. So it's only when the shadow has ended, the 3 stages of his mission have been completed, وَسَائِرُ أَيَّامِهِ كَأَيَّامِكُمْ. And he's now in our world of space and time. It is only at this time that he'll come from the east, riding on a donkey. And the donkey will travel as fast as the clouds. And the donkey, he'll have his head stretched out wide. But before that, he is in this world. But he is starting from an island, and I said, my understanding is that the island is Britain. What about Gog and Magog? When Gog and Magog are released, said the Prophet ﷺ, the first of them will pass by the Sea of Galilee on their way to Jerusalem. If you are passing on the way to Jerusalem and you're going to pass by the Sea of Galilee, you're coming from the north. Do they teach geography in Britain? They do? All right. So Gog and Magog will have to be coming from the north because they're heading to Jerusalem. And on the way to Jerusalem, they're passing by the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee is located in the north of Jerusalem, north. So Gog and Magog will have to come from the north. Tamim Udari went on board a ship. Ships normally travel on water, don't they? So we're looking for a body of water close to the Holy Land, close to Medina. It could either be the Red Sea or the Mediterranean Sea. It won't be on that side. It can't be the Red Sea because this ship travels for a whole month in the storm before reaching land. The Red Sea, in 10 minutes, you reach land. So it has to be the Mediterranean Sea, okay? And they travel to reach Britain. But if we look for a body of water to the left, is it only the Mediterranean Sea? The sun is setting on the west. No, there is a second body of water north of the Mediterranean Sea. What is it? The Black Sea. The visibility of water in the Mediterranean Sea is a couple meters deep. But visibility in the Black Sea is only about 1 meter. This is why Allah refers to it as Ainun Hamia, dark and murky. And the Mufassir of the Quran, Ibn Kathir, agrees. He says it's the Black Sea. So Gog and Magog are located between the Black Sea on this side. And which sea is on that side? The Caspian Sea. And between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, an unbroken chain of mountains. What is it called? The Caucasus Mountains. And there's only one pass in the Caucasus Mountains. Only one. You can't miss it. It's called the Dariel Gorge. And there you find the people who speak a language, the Georgian language, which is unconnected with all the regional languages. And it is in that region of the world, right there, you'll find the abundance of iron ore that Zulkarnain used to build the barrier of iron. Atuni Zubar al-Hadid. Zubar al-Hadid. And so now we say, Gog and Magog have to be located on the north of the Caucasus Mountains. Who they are is not so important, but they are going to eventually take control of power in the world. Is it the Vikings? Not only will they take power in the world, but they're going to bring the Jews back to the Holy Land. Did the Vikings bring them back to the Holy Land? Bring the evidence. But about the Khazar, yes. We know that the Khazar converted to Judaism. That's a historical fact. And we know that some of the Khazar who were Jews then converted to Christianity. So you had Khazar on this side and Khazar on that side. And they were able, playing both sides, to be able to forge the Judeo-Christian alliance, the Zionist alliance, over which Allah has spoken in the Quran, when He said, لَا تَتَّخِذُوا الْيَهُودَ وَالنَّصَارَ أَوْلِيَاءَ. Which Jews and which Christians is He talking about? Oh, but the answer is right there. بَعَدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ بَعَدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. Do not take such Jews and such Christians as your friends and allies. Who? بَعَدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. Don't take such Jews and such Christians as your friends and allies, who themselves are friends and allies of each other. I think that's enough. I came to the conclusion that it could not have been a real life experience in our material universe. Why? Because when Tamim ud-Dari saw Dajjal, he saw him as a human being. And he saw him with chains on his neck. The only time you could see Dajjal as a human being is when the chains have already been removed a long, long time ago. Are you understanding me? You didn't understand. When Tamim ud-Dajjal saw, when Tamim ud-Dari saw Dajjal, he saw him as a human being. But he also saw him in chains. He was chained. But the only time you could see Dajjal as a human being is when he is in our material universe, in our world of space and time. And by that time he would be at the end of his mission. Stage 1 and stage 2 and stage 3 would all have been completed. And the chains would have been removed long, long, long ago. So you cannot see Dajjal as a human being and also in chains. Logically impossible. Still don't understand? Yeah. So when he saw him as a human being and in chains, the implication is, this is a vision. There are 3 events which are all connected with each other, if you know how to connect the dots. The first was the Armenian genocide. It was not the Ottoman Empire, which claimed to be a Khilafah state, not that Ottoman Empire, which committed the genocide of the Armenians in 1914. No. Very few people remember today that the body of Pharaoh was discovered in 1897, 98, just at the same time when the Zionist movement was created. And Allah says, I have done this, لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً, that I have preserved the body of Pharaoh, so that when this body is rediscovered, لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً, that this body will be a sign for a people to come after, that they will live the way he lived and they'll die the way he died. Have you understood now? لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً, that they will live the way he lived, oppressing. Go take a look at Gaza and you'll see naked oppression. They will live the way he lived and they will die the way he died. I went into a Jewish synagogue in the United States with 200 Jews present, and I told them that. I told them that to their faces. They couldn't believe it. When the lecture was over, they surrounded me. I have these memories from the United States. لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً. That you will live the way he lived and you will die the way he died. This was 1897. So now look at the events. 1902, and the Zionist movement succeeds in bringing together a conference in Paris to plot regime change in Constantinople. 1902. It took them 6 years, and by 1908 they succeeded. Unbelievable. I still can't believe it, how they did it in 6 years. And Sultan Abdul Hamid was toppled. And the new people who came to take over the state were secular people. Mustafa Kamal's gang, secular nationalists who despise Islam. Despise Islam. And this is the regime that they committed the genocide of the Armenian people. Deliberate genocide. Yes, deliberate. Why? To sabotage any end-time friendship and alliance between the world of Islam and the Orthodox Christian world. That's the reason for the Armenian genocide. And then came Srebrenica. And when the full story of who it is who orchestrated Srebrenica, when that is shown to you, you will have to put your tail behind your necks and go and beg for forgiveness. Because like dumb fools, you are swallowing the story that comes out of the oppressor. That the Serbian nation, the Orthodox Christian nation, was so bloodthirsty that they are the ones who massacred all the Muslims in Srebrenica. And this poor fool called Imran Hosein refuses to call it a genocide because, you know, Her Majesty's British government can't be mistaken. When Britain took the matter to the Security Council to have it declared that this was genocide, Imran Hosein said, no, it cannot be a genocide. Yes, it was a massacre. Most certainly a massacre. And when the story is told, on that day, on Judgment Day, you know who orchestrated it. The same people who want to sabotage any end-time friendship and alliance between Muslims and Orthodox Christians, they are the ones who orchestrated the massacre in Srebrenica, to put the blame on the entire Serbian nation. But the Serbs are themselves sorry for what happened. The Serbs are themselves saying, find out who are the ones responsible and punish them. But like a pack of hungry, let me not use the word, the deaf, dumb, and blind cannot see that this was an effort to sabotage an end-time friendship and alliance between the Muslim world and the Orthodox Christian world. And then ISIS comes along. And if Russia had not intervened in Syria, there would have been a genocide. These bloodthirsty so-called jihadists who have no shame, who could take weapons from Santa Claus and take money from Santa Claus to go and wage their bogus jihad, would have slaughtered all the Christians of Syria. And if that had happened, that would have put the last nail in the coffin, that there'll be no possibility ever of friendship and alliance between Muslims and Orthodox Christians. That's the answer to you concerning Srebrenica. Remember my words, because in the grave you'll see the story and you'll see that I am correct, that there were hidden hands at work. This was not a genocide, because the Serbian people did not celebrate over this. They did not like what happened. sorry for what happened, and they would very much like to see those who committed the massacre to be punished for it. If you want to see a genocide, take a look at what the Western world did in the United States to the American Indians. They don't apologize up to now. Up to now. They are a people who have the footprints of oppressors, the footprints of godlessness, the footprints of facade, corrupting everything. The male-female relationship is that men should be attracted to women, that men are the hunters and women are the hunted. And a family is constructed of a husband and a wife, and they are hell-bent on destroying this and replacing it with a marriage of a man with another man and a woman with another man. And so a child now has two daddies. Yes, two daddies. And if you do not enact legislation to support this godless agenda, they attack your money. And you have inflation. So they're all scared of them. This is Gog and Magog. Footprints of oppressors. Footprints of facade. But how come there are two footprints instead of one? There should be one uniform footprints, isn't it? So how come two? Shall I show you the two? These are the people who have given us the scientific and technological revolution. These are the masters of modern technology. They teach engineering to the world. They teach technology to the world. They want to bring a uniform world of business, of money, and so on. Well then, how come one side of their world you drive on the right side of the road, and in another part of their world you drive on the left side of the world? Don't they have even elementary common sense? What's wrong that they cannot standardize it because it's dangerous? You're driving from London to Paris, and when you cross over from Dover to Calais, and you're driving to Paris, and you're looking at this big truck with a dozen vehicles on it, and the man is coming straight at you. What's wrong with him? He's sleeping. He's driving on the wrong side of the road. And then when the truck is about to crush you, then you realize, oh no, I'm driving on the wrong side of the road. You see how dangerous it is? Have you ever done it? Drive on the other side of the road? It's dangerous. So how come they have not standardized it? This is Britain, that's France. Now, the world will come to an end, but they will not standardize it. Why? You have to have two footprints for the same people, so you can understand. Shall I continue? You buy your gasoline in France, and you buy it with liters, don't you? And you come over to Britain, they sell it in gallons here? Or in liters? Gallons? How you buy gas? Liters. Well, in the United States, it's gallons. How come? Why don't you have the metric system for everybody? In the United States, it's gallons. You buy gasoline by the gallons. And over here, you buy by the liters. Why the two footprints? When you buy fruits, do you buy by the kilogram? The kilo? We go to the United States, they don't buy by kilograms, they buy by the pounds. Why the two footprints? Huh? Why the two footprints? What's the temperature today? Is it 30 degrees? Or is it 28 degrees? Go with this nonsense to the United States. Oh no, we have the Fahrenheit. What nonsense is this? Why two footprints when there should be one? And the one that always gets me angry, oh yes, you take your laptop computer and you want to plug in. And you want to plug in, and this is the part of the world which is technologically most advanced. And a simple thing like standardizing the electrical outlets, and these donkeys cannot standardize it. And you have to go through this enormous difficulty of getting an adapter for here and an adapter for there and an adapter for there. Why different footprints when there should be one? If you have the answer, tell me. I'd love to hear the answer. But I know the answer is this. This is Allah's way of telling you. There are two footprints when there should be only one. This is Gog and that's Magog. We'll take only Gog and Magog and Dajjal, leave Iblis out for the time being. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falak. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. Is it by accident that Allah ends the Quran with this? This is called Al-Mawwidhatayn, the two surahs with a warning in them. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falak, qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. Alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas. Alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas. Min al-jinnati wan nas. So when Dajjal wants to communicate, all he has to do is to whisper into the heart. That's it.